So this is my first Facebook Live, and I choose to do it when there is a massive storm outside. It is so crazy. So if you can't see here, um, first of all, I'm not orange. It's just that the shelves above me look like that, so they kind of reflect that light off. But welcome to Facts and Stats Friday. I decided I wanted to do something that always motivates me to keep in the driver's seat no matter what's going on, and I wanted to do it on our private mastermind Facebook group because I wanted to create a really special community here where you got a chance to show up with me and ask questions and be involved, and we could create a real community around it. So if you've also done the webinars lately, you'll have to bear with me. So if you go into nikkifogden-moore.com, there's always like a monthly free webinar that's coming up, but I'm building out the whole of the Mojo Maker Academy personally. I know it sounds really insane, which means that there's some speed bumps, but luckily, you know what? I'm not going for Miss Perfect. I'm going to make sure that you have absolutely the best tools to help you succeed. So we're probably going to have a little bit of a roadmap that needs some consideration along the way. As you get emails, if you get your downloads, I'd love to hear how the platforms are working for you. I set up this Facebook mastermind group by request as well. So it'd be really great to get more engagement here and to hear what you'd like me to talk about. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go for it and share tips and tools that I use on a daily basis to keep my mojo intact and also keep you radically accountable for your radical results. Because we all know that there are millions and millions and millions of techniques out there to help you achieve your best life, become successful, run a 7-figure, 8-figure business, be the best dad, parent, relationship, whatever it is in the world that you're looking for. There is so much information. And I guess what my job is to navigate you out of all the overwhelm and to start trusting yourself, and instead of just consuming, to get in the driver's seat and start creating. So today's message is just a really short live that will be recorded hopefully as well. I don't quite know how that works on Facebook, so it's all very new for me. So if you're new to the channel, if you're new to Facebook group live with me, if you're new to even watching me, welcome. A couple of tips: you can go on to Radical Self-Belief, the Mojo Maker podcast, which is across all podcast platforms. And that is the yellow product tile there for that podcast. 164 episodes, some really cool ones. The most recent one with Dean Karnazes was really amazing. He is the fittest person on the planet, or one of them, and he's also just the most amazing human. You will also notice that Roxy does a debut in the background there. So it's a pretty hilarious interview, but it's pretty motivating as well. Another couple of administration points. Anything I talk about here, if you want the worksheets, links, video links for stuff that I reference, and if you haven't already got the books, whether it's Radical Self-Belief or if it's Vitality, every single book that I write is a doing book. And that's really, really important to me, that you are totally in the driver's seat with the content that you're given. So that means instead of just reading a book and going, oh, well, that was really cool, I read it in a night. I don't really think that's something to be proud of. I think you want to say, I read this book and it changed my life because I did the work in it. And that would be really, really, really cool. So what are you going to take away from the tools and the resources and everything else that can help you be your absolute personal best? That means you have to show up and do the work. So today's live is about that niggly little self-conscious, that little self-doubt that I got really busy. I really wanted to do the vital ingredients worksheet, Nikki, but I really wanted to sit down and look at my finances and make out a game plan for cash flow. But I'm definitely thinking about doing my health and well-being goals. However, all these little kind of excuses that really stop you from being in your ultimate self, regardless what is going on. So I've gone through heaps of stuff in the last year, and even in the last week, with family members passing away, and then other cousins, people I didn't even know existed, lots of changes, but I still feel super connected to my work, my life, my job, and everything else, and being completely present. So as we go through things, there are horrible things happening in our world at the moment, and the news has gone from the pandemic to what's going on in the Ukraine. So if anyone has family over there, I really want to send my best wishes. No one should be in war, no matter what the reasons, the conditions. This generation of population should never put themselves in that position, and I'm really sorry and sad to hear the news this morning. So just a little tribute to anyone going through that unprecedented misery at the moment. I thought we were all past that, but obviously not. So let's get back to the war with self. How do you make sure in our little express session in Facts and Stats Fridays, this is a no excuses, no hope projects way to show up. So if you want to, you can also ask me questions and then I can answer those as well. But I want to give you 3 core tips today to be super aware and discern when you are making a decision or your subconscious is making a decision. We understand the parameters of what that means, but here are 3 simple ways to make sure that you can be in the driver's seat. Number 1, your ego is not your amigo. So your ego is that little voice that's kind of in the back of your head that goes, it's all right for Nikki. She's sitting there in her little office and, preaching to us about everything. And she doesn't realize that I've got 3 kids. And, your voice is going on and on and on. That little ego voice is noisy. It's constantly chattering. And what I say to my clients is it sits there doing push-ups in the background. And you think that you've made amazing breakthroughs, but you've probably had a fake through because your subconscious is just waiting for a unique, vulnerable opportunity to come back and say, I told you so, right? So the way to discern the difference between recognizing the niggle, self-doubt, ego, saboteur, internal subconscious programming is to go anything that is of a busy mind and too many sentences and questioning. That's usually something you should leave on the crap carousel. And that means observing your thoughts like you would do at an airport when you're waiting for your bag to come around. You're waiting for your bag to come around. You see all these different bags. It's the same thing with your thoughts. You see all these different thoughts. You choose what thought you want to pick up and walk away with. And I think it's the easiest way to talk about neuroplasticity as well. Our mind is like a muscle. So what you flex most will become the strongest. And that means that if you keep flexing self-doubt, judgment, blame, shame, guilt, wanting to wait for perfection, all the kind of things that are underpinning and giving you a life in your head which does not part of stability and flow because you're constantly questioning everything, then you're picking up the bags off the crap carousel and walking away with them. So the way to change that is to observe the baggage that's not yours anymore and to leave it on the crap carousel and choose the one suitcase that has got the good stuff in it, because that is how you will create more of that good stuff. By watering the thoughts that are positive, that are quiet, that are discerning, that are calm, and that is the next right thing, you can immediately identify the chaotic thoughts which are trying to keep you off track. So a very simple way to do that is to go, the forever questioning mind is usually the subconscious when it takes you away from grounded curiosity into fear-based questions. So for example, a curiosity question would be, for me today, I think I sent an email out in my Vital Ingredients webinar that I hadn't finished yet because there was someone at the front door and then Roxy barked and then I got a phone call. So on my automations, I may have sent that out. So my tone and my consideration was of curiosity, but I could have turned that around and the same situation, I could have gone, oh my God, I've just sent out an email to all my Vital Ingredients webinar people and it wasn't finished and everyone's going to think I'm a complete loser and, what am I going to do? This is terrible. It's going to ruin everything. So that constant kind of division between curiosity and fear questioning. And I hope by listening to this, you're starting to understand the difference, right? Give me a thumbs up or let me know. Especially, hey there, Kate. Great, I'm listening to do this. So I know, Kate, and anyone listening to this, you've got many examples where you know what flow thinking feels like and what distorted thinking feels like. So let's just loop back. Number 1 of the 3 points is your ego is not your amigo. So it might seem clever and it might feel like it's doing you a great service, but actually it's sabotaging your ability to make good conscious decisions without friction and be in flow. So the second thing is, what do we do if we're constantly plagued by fear or self-doubt, or we're afraid of what other people will think? That is probably one of the biggest barriers to people actually creating a life that they want, whether it's taking charge of their vital ingredients to make themselves happy in their day. Look at how they can actually make sure that they're starting to pursue a career or a job, and maybe they're afraid of what their family will think or what their friends will think, etc., etc. So what we do is we are so programmed for outside validation that before we even back ourselves and consider creating the next right step, we have all these conversations in our head that are placed upon us by other people's judgments. There's a very simple way to turn that around. If you are ever judging someone else, that means that you've got three fingers pointing back at you. And I always do this on my show. So if you're pointing at someone going, oh my God, look at them, it's easy for them, you've probably got three fingers here with all the issues that you need to address. Now, mostly people are their harshest critics. And if you're listening to this and you're on the Facebook group, I guarantee that you're probably your toughest critic, and you probably give yourself such a hard time about making sure that before you start something, you really got a backing on it. You're not going to fail. You're going to put your best foot forward. It has to be perfect because you've got an image to uphold or a standard or a quality to uphold. A million things will go through your head. I urge you for point 2 to slow your thoughts down and to get grounded and back yourself. And that means writing down all the judgmental self-doubt thoughts on a piece of paper, taking a pen and paper and going, I'm going to write down all the things by hand that are my blurts, that are my roadblocks. I am going to write down all the things that are judgment-based, doubt-based, fear-based. I'm going to acknowledge them, but I'm going to put them on paper, because what that does is it instantly diffuses the power that those critical thoughts have in your head. Because when you see them on paper, you're like, that is ridiculous. I actually am giving myself a really hard time. I haven't even heard from anyone that would say that to me. This is purely a perception that is holding me back from getting started. So number 1, recognize that your ego is not your amigo. You leave the crappy thoughts on the crap carousel in the thought airport, shall we call it. Number 2 is you have to be acutely accountable for what those negative thoughts are. You can't just go, yeah, I get that, I should probably be more discerning. You actually have to start writing them down, just like you would do your goals or your desired outcomes, or your dream job, or your dream relationship, or your whatever it is. The A column is the stuff you really want. The B column is your blurts. That's the stuff that holds you back. Then if you, in the basic form of neuroscience, want to keep that information churning up there like an old computer, it's going to take up valuable hard drive space. So for Facts and Stats Friday, I want to remind you that we write that shit down. We don't leave it hanging around in the ecosphere of our mental acuity going, possibly there's a doubt. We get all of it down and we get radically accountable to go, those thoughts are not ones that I'm going to make my decisions by. Those are negative programming. They're fear-based decision-making tools. They're keeping me stuck and they're not propelling me forward. I make a conscious decision to feel the fear, to harness that anxiety and use that energy into a forward propelling motion. And that's point 3. A lot of people I know are suffering from higher levels of anxiety than ever before. I'm talking about panic attacks, the inability to make good decisions, feeling completely overwhelmed. And because you've probably always been a leader in your life, you're suddenly the one without all the answers. And I think what happens is we forget to harness the proper use of good adrenaline, a good little bit of nervousness, a little bit of fear, and do it anyway. So if you can transmute that fear and anxious energy into a positive approach to give you a propelling movement forward, to go, I'm just going to bungee off this idea. I'm going to free fall because I know it's the next right thing to do. That instant energy kick that you get from taking a leap of faith is 10 times the energy that you would get from staying stuck and sitting on a fence that is very uncomfortable. So those are 3 really core ways that you actually can start building through a life of calm, no matter how chaotic everything around. So absolutely, Kate, fear is a reaction, but if we understand that reaction and we go, well, hold on a second, I actually want to respond better. and understanding, is that just a negative thought that's holding me back, or am I going to articulate that and realize that once I've written it down, it has no power over me? So 3 core things today for Facts and Stats Friday to overcome self-doubt, get rid of judgment, and put yourself in the driver's seat constantly, is that on a day-to-day basis, you have to do these skills. Number 1, just to recap, making sure that you discern between your subconscious saboteurs and your good decision-making grounded self. The subconscious is the busy, over-questioning, kind of like sneaky little niggly voice that's, I don't know, sounds all too good to be true, sounds a bit simple. Get rid of that. Amazing results will happen when you decide to leave those crap thoughts on the crap carousel at the thought airport, and you decide to pick up a bag of really good, radically positive stuff and start backing yourself. Secondly, what did I just mention? I mentioned that you have to actually write this stuff down. So a lot of people talk about and they read neuroplasticity, whether you've read Eckhart Tolle's The New Earth, Dr. Joe Dispenza, whether you listen to Katie Byron, Brene Brown, Lewis Howes, whoever. We always talk about mindset. I want you to actually do the work to write down the negative beliefs, programming, the subconscious patterns, judgment, and self-doubt that are probably just sitting there insidiously waiting to have a moment they can sneak in there and take over the driver's seat. I've got snakes on the brain because I can't backwash my pool because I'm too afraid to go to the pool shed. That's another story. So the third thing, as I said, is you have to use fear and anxiety in a different way to have that as motivational energy rather than keeping you stuck. And I know that's a really, really interesting concept. So let me just spend a little bit more time on that. Anxiety can cause people to stop in their tracks. It's a huge epidemic in itself at the moment, mental health. So how do we actually learn to harness that anxiety is part of our day-to-day life if we understand there's a healthy bit of nervousness when you start something new? And that is that very, very old adage of feel the fear and do it anyway. Unless there is a lion chasing you, unless there is a military strike, unless there is someone with a gun chasing you, a lot of the decisions that we get a fear response for are actually quite benign, life, ordinary decisions, but we've had past programming that keeps us feeling like we have to make a finite result. And nothing is finite. Everything is organic. All you have to do is take the next right step. But that takes you backing yourself. So it's a cycle. It's like a little workflow. Understanding your subconscious patterns, not giving your power to your ego or your subconscious programming, writing everything down, looking at what great looks like, and then understanding the blurts. Even if you're working on going for a new job or going to a new relationship or improving the relationships that you have, what would great look like? As you start writing that out, you're automatically going to get blurts for all the reasons why that can't happen. And the third thing is to harness the energy of fear and use that to propel you forward. It's a bit like the woohoo moment. It's the rally moment. It's the bungee moment. It's the moment where you go skydiving and you just thrown out of there even if you don't want to go. And then the exhilaration, the energy, the confidence and the clarity that comes from taking that step will propel you into the next step going forward. And that is an extremely vital ingredient for radical self-belief, because if you don't take action, you won't have evidence. If you don't take action, you won't create a room for the next right thing to show up. You can't wait for perfection. It's really, really important. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about today, is making sure that you had the tools, because let's face it, we have so many resources available to us. So a couple of little things to figure out. So Kate says she had some staff resign and she wanted to keep them, but she's sitting back, allowing for what I call natural attrition. That's so good, Kate. Your frequency might evolve and others won't, but what we can't do is control how other people show up. And that's a really good point to talk about in this episode as well, is that while you're working on your growth, while you're taking accountability, while you're looking to create the best platform for your family or your staff, not everyone's going to have the same filter. So what's super, super important is understanding that the way that you show up sets the standard, and then you have to stop filling the gaps for others and see who naturally rises to the top with you. So yes, you can give people skills. Yes, you can give them a framework and guidance. Yes, you can give them bonuses, motivation, and incentives, but it has to be a two-way street, because that's where the most amazing relationships are created. Radical reciprocal relationships. And that's what we have when you coach with me, or when you come and do an online program. That's why I'm showing up on a Friday in the middle of a storm where the lights are out, all sorts of things are going on, because I really want you guys to get radical results, and we're a team, we're in this together. So Kate showing up here today and sharing her story should inspire you as well, if you're watching this at any time, to know that you can apply these principles to work, you can apply these principles to your personal life, and you can apply these principles to your very private goals, where you're looking at how you can be your personal best no matter what has gone on before for you, or also where you sit right now. And hi, Jai, nice to see you. So what is important is there's only really one question. If it's not going to be you that's going to change your life and take all these steps and make things happen, who's going to do it? Whether you realize it or not, you can look behind you, look to the side, you can wait for inspiration, but you have to be your own hero. You have to be the one, and you're probably the unlikely hero for so many people around you. And that can feel a bit exhausting, but only if you're focusing on having to lead them. But if you just focus on your own side of the street, doing the very best thing you can to lead by example, you'll have a natural effect of bringing more people along at that vibration, that intellectual level, that quality of work, that quality of friendship, that quality of relationship, that quality of results, which means that everything in your life, from health, wealth, vitality, mindset, emotional, spiritual, it all comes together. And if you've done any coaching with me, you'll know this is one of the fundamentals, and my sole purpose in working with you guys is that all of us have the absolute ability to unlock what I call the complete integration of flow. But you've just got to start taking a step to applying the knowledge and feeling it. You can't just understand it, you have to do the work. And that's why there's different phases. So today, I hope this little video has absolutely given you guys a radical reminder that you have to be in the driver's seat. And whilst we understand that, these Facts and Stats Fridays are really here to say, I know how tough it is. I know how challenging it can be. I know how lonely it can feel. I know how isolating it can be when you're like, I just don't feel like I mesh with that anymore. And then you're like, but what else is there out there? That's because you're a pioneer. So you have to create that. And that comes from a true sense of purpose and privilege, and sitting in there and going, yes, that is the Nikki I needed today. That is the one piece of information that I just needed to hear to show up for myself, to shut out the white noise, to be radically accountable for my blurts, and to take the next right step, to harness that anxiety, to take that feeling of fear, to turn that endorphin into something positive that will propel me forward. So I probably rattled on forever and ever. Yeah, big changes in February. But not just, I think even the radical awareness that comes with some of these changes is also the ability to allow the space for them to happen. And that's what I love so much about my clients at the moment, the private clients, is the confidence to not fill the gaps, right? So do the work, create your plans, be aware of your sabotaging blurts, write them down, look for what best could be, and then allow there to be some space for things to show up. And allow there to be space for natural attrition of who is going to be with you on this journey. And the next coming weeks, we're going to talk about communicating your vital ingredients, how to use the truth matrix. Why is it that we have all these amazing tools, but we don't really apply them properly all the time? So the 7-day coaching challenge is going to be really fun, because that's about radical leadership of self. And I think that's what it's all about, is making sure that you guys can shut out everything that is not your responsibility, because other people have to show up for themselves and go, how am I going to lead today? And am I truly feeling tired and exhausted, or am I just taking on a story that it's all too hard? Because that's where your neuroplasticity comes in. Listen to your body, understand your thoughts, have your vision there, but allow the road to have different twists and turns so that you have radical self-belief and agility along the way. So has this helped you guys? I hope it has. I wanted to keep these short and sweet, not my strength, because I do talk a lot. A couple little tips. If you haven't listened to episode 164 with the most incredible Dean Kinesis, who is Time Magazine's one of the 100th most influential people in the world. That's quite a mouthful to say. Also, Men's Health Magazine, one of the fittest people on the planet. A lot of P's there, but just the most humble, incredible, inspiring human. And I love his approach to movement. We got on extremely well. Roxy piped in on the podcast. It's on the YouTube. I'll put the links below in the show notes from this video. And also your vital ingredients. If you don't know what ingredients you need to show up as the best version of yourself every day, you're just going to get what you're given. So I say to everybody that I work with, what are the unique ingredients that make a Kate, that make a Jaya, that make a Nikki, that make a Sue, that make a Mark? What makes you the very best version of yourself? Because you can really do this, but it takes a quiet dedication to the tiny steps and the shifts in coordinates that create the greatest ripple effect. You've just got to apply it every day. So if you haven't already got Radical Self-Belief, you can use code RSB10 for 10% off signed copies, or you can also get the online course. I'll put links on that below. If you're coaching with me or you're coming to the masterclass, get ready, buckle up. This is going to be so exciting, and I'm so thrilled to have local leaders masterclasses happening here on the Sunshine Coast for 2022. Two really powerful groups, and we're kicking off the first group in March. And always reach out. I want to help, so please leave me your questions and comments. I really, really appreciate that. Kate and Jaya, thank you so much for joining me today and for all the energy. Allow the space. Your 3 tips today: your ego is not your amigo. Write down your blurts, harness anxiety and fear, and change that energy to give you forward momentum. I hope you really enjoyed this, and I'd love to see your comments below. If there's anything else you want me to talk about on Facts and Stats Fridays, then drop it on the Facebook group. And thank you for being the premier first group for my live Facebook here on the Mojo Maker Academy private Facebook group and Radical Self-Belief. And you guys have a fantastic Friday. I now have to go and discover if I've got snakes in the pool shed to backwash the pool with the storm. More things and Nikki-isms can be found on the Vitality Coach TV on YouTube. Of course, Radical Self-Belief, the podcast, all the blogs are on my website, nikkifogden-moore.com. And I hope this has just been a really, really cool session today where I look like I've been in Florida, but I haven't. And I wish you the most radical weekend ahead, and thank you for tuning in. Bye, guys.